Traders, happy Tuesday. Thank you guys so much for tuning back into the channel today. It really does mean a lot to have your time. And as usual, I'm going to go ahead and provide you guys with an update, let you guys know exactly how my trading went. So let's get right into today's video. And as you guys can see from the top left to your right, I did want to make a quick disclaimer that I am trading on a simulation account today. And I will be the next few weeks, as you guys may know, right? So, I did want to make you guys aware of that. And so as you guys can see from the screen, today was a green day, right? Fortunately, I was able to make $115 on TQQQ. And for any of you who are new or just are wondering, I do trade with 10K every day, right? So I was able to make about 1.15% profit today. And so as you guys can see, these are all my orders. I started trading at 643, finished at 654, right? So I was only trading for 11 minutes today, and I was just super grateful that I was able to hit my daily goal within a short period of time. So I didn't want to overstay my welcome, and I decided to walk away there, right? But so what ended up happening today, right? So we're currently looking at the NASDAQ future on the 1-day, 1-minute chart, right? And as you guys will notice here on the chart, we saw this huge movement happen at 5:30, right? Well, if you guys saw my video yesterday, I prepared you guys for this, right? I let you guys know that at 5:30 a.m. there was going to be a CPI data report, right? And what it was pretty much was going to tell us was whether or not inflation was increasing or decreasing, and that the market can have a positive or negative reaction, right? So, well, what actually ended up happening is you can see this thing actually ended up shooting up. So the market ended up responding positively to it, and what ended up being reported was that inflation actually was a bit lower than expected, right? So the reason why the market would react positively is, the Federal Reserve is super keen on trying to raise interest rates so that they can combat inflation, right? Their main goal is for inflation to be going down long term. And so if the CPI data report comes out lower than expected, then of course it makes sense why the market would react positively, right? Because the Federal Reserve is having their intended effect of being able to lower the interest rate. And so that is why we saw this nice push up. And so as you guys also may notice, right? Well, what ended up happening? This thing completely gave everything back right on the day and just continued to sell off. And so I actually woke up at 5:30, right? I saw this thing rip. And so if you guys, well, actually, this is my simulation account, but on my main account, I took a look at my swing trades, right? As you guys know that I have, and I was up about $400 to $500, right? And that's with having about $8,000 in the market. So I was up a decent amount, right? And so I felt pretty good about it. And then what ended up happening? Well, as soon as market opened at 6:30, literally right around here, right? You see these increase in volume bars. This thing started to sell off aggressively, and I saw, right, my P&L just drop, and the stocks and my swing trades go down with it, right? And then it ended up trying to bounce, right? So I thought we were going to see what happened last time, where it had a chance of bouncing and then continuing to, rip it on the day. And that's what ended up happening. One of the previous reports where the Federal Reserve, announced something, we saw the market react positively. It started to pull back, and then it continued to rip throughout the day and make these higher highs, right? And it took the stocks with it. Today, exact opposite, right? So this thing tried, right? After this nice sell-off, it did try to have a nice recovery, but it ultimately peaked out, right? Became overextended, started to sell off, and man, did this thing sell off all day, right? So this thing continuously would break below the EMA, right? And continuously get rejected, as you guys can see, right? Anytime it would try bouncing, it would just continuously get rejected, try to push back up, right? And then continuously get rejected. And so I just saw how aggressive this thing was selling off. So I decided, well, I actually made my money on TQQQ today, right? So as you guys can see, as I mentioned, I got in at 643 and sold at 655. So why did I get in at 643? Well, I saw the market, right, had a nice positive reaction. It started to sell off. And as I mentioned before, I've seen it previously find a support and start to rip. So I did see this thing start to form these nice candles, right, where they're each, forming higher highs and higher lows. And so I decided at this break above the EMA that I would buy in. And as you guys can see, I started to really average into this, right? And then I cut majority shares here. I did end up taking a bit of a loss as it pulled on back. But ultimately, as it started to push up, right, I started to average in. And then I ended up cutting the trade all around here, right? So I was able to walk away with the $115 profit in 11 minutes, so I was super blessed for that, right? And as you guys can see, I actually got out at a really good time, literally almost exactly to the minute to where I sold out. Direction started to change, right? So I was very fortunate in that sense, but ultimately, right, as I saw this thing sell off, it really did suck, but that doesn't mean that, it's not like there's nothing you can do about it, right? And you can just sit there and watch your account get drained if you want. If you really thought that this thing was going to sell off aggressively the way it did, right, you could have always sold out of your shares that you're holding and then bought back in at the end of the day. Or, you could have just got into the inverse ETF and made money that way, right? I know on our main account, right, we were actually able to ride SQQQ down a bit. And so we were actually able to make about almost $110 on SQQQ on these two drops here, right? Just by getting in, right? As it started to change direction, I would cut the trade and then I would continue on, right? So simulation account, I made money on TQQQ, and on our main account, right? As I mentioned, this thing was just pulling back aggressively, and so that really told us that this thing was going to continue to remain bearish. And so rather than just watch our profits bleed, right? We decided to be proactive and get into the inverse ETF, and we were able to recover, $110 profit that we would have just lost by not even getting into the inverse ETF, right? So that's definitely the benefit that comes with, being able to take advantage of direction when you see something either pushing up or selling off, right? If you see something pushing up, you can probably try, looking to get into TQQQ, but if you see this thing being bearish, there's always SQQQ for that, right? But, huge movement throughout the day. This thing did push up, right? So over 3%, and given the triple leverage inverse ETFs or ETFs themselves, right, TQQQ and SQQQ, the way they trade, they're triple that, right? So we did see the NASDAQ peak out, and from its peak to its bottom, right, SQQQ must have moved over 10%, right? So if we actually go to the inverse ETF itself and take a look at it, hopefully it's able to load, right? You'll see from the lows to the highs, this thing ripped over actually 12%, right? So that's a really nice move for the day. So, proud of anyone who's able to take advantage of that. But it just goes to show that you can make money, right, with either the market going up or down. You don't just have to watch your account bleed, right? But yeah, that's pretty much everything I did want to mention. And I don't want to forget too that tomorrow there is going to be a big, meeting itself. So the FOMC is actually going to announce when they're going to have their rate hike, right? Or what it's going to be. So, and that's a big reason why we did see the market sell off the way it did, right? So we did see the positive news of the CPI data coming, lower than expected. But, as the market sold off, I tried to look into why exactly we saw this, bearish pattern throughout the day. And a few articles were pretty much mentioning that people were, reassessing where they wanted to be in terms of heading into tomorrow, right? Tomorrow, when they announce the actual rate hike decision, people are probably expecting it to be around 0.5% because of the fact that, the inflation did come in lower than expected today in terms of the CPI, right? So because of that, people are expecting the Federal Reserve to not have to raise interest rate as aggressive, right, as a 0.75% or higher. And so if we do see that 0.5 as expected, or, anything lower, which I don't necessarily see happening anything lower, but, I don't obviously know what's going to be reported, we can see the market react positively. But at the same time, right, if we do see them decide to raise the interest rate higher than what is actually expected, we can see the market correct itself and fall a bit, right? So it can drop a decent amount given the fact that we are pretty overextended, right, at these areas. Anytime the market does push up around these areas, we do see any form of slight corrections, right? It'll push up, correct itself, push up. It's been consolidating around here. It wouldn't be surprising if it did correct itself, right? But at the same time, we have to expect both sides to happen, right? So we obviously, and that will be reported at 11 p.m. or 11 a.m., my apologies, Pacific Standard Time, or 2 p.m. Eastern Time, right? So that will be going on tomorrow. So definitely watch your positions if you have anything open. And, that partially does explain why the market did sell off, right? People don't necessarily want to have their money in when they know there's going to be big movement tomorrow. So we just have to wait and see what happens. I'm excited to see what will happen either way. If the market decides to tank, then maybe I can buy in to some of, these long-term stocks at cheaper prices. But if the market does push up, then that's good for me. But either way, I'm excited and I'm gonna follow up with it, and I hope you guys do too. But that's why I will be posting a video tomorrow, so we'll be able to see what happens if you do tune on into that. And that's pretty much everything I wanted to talk about today. If you guys are new to the channel, we really do appreciate you dropping a like and subscribing. Other than that, if you guys have any questions at all, go ahead and drop a comment and I'm more than happy to answer myself. But that's pretty much everything. I will see you guys tomorrow in my recap. Take care and have a good rest of your day.